The entrepreneur who is reversing aging. Let me ask you something. What if aging wasn't a death sentence? What if the wrinkles on your face didn't mean decline, but wisdom? What if gray hair wasn't a sign of weakness, but a marker of resilience? What if getting old didn't mean losing your strength, your memory, or your independence, but instead meant becoming sharper, healthier, and more alive with every passing year? For centuries, humanity has accepted aging as an unavoidable reality. We expect our bodies to slow down, our bones to weaken, our minds to forget, and eventually, our lives to end. But what if we've been wrong all along? What if aging is not destiny, but a disease that can be measured, managed, and maybe even reversed? Now imagine a man who has already invested over $2 million of his own money into finding that answer, not into luxury cars, not into mansions, not into vacations on private islands, but into rewiring his own biology. His mission is bold, almost audacious, to measure, track, and ultimately reverse aging. Sounds like science fiction, right? Like something you'd only see in futuristic movies. But buckle up, because today we're diving deep into the incredible world of data-driven health optimization, early intervention, and a future where dying might not be inevitable. And before we go deeper, make sure you smash that like button, share this video with someone who cares about their future, and subscribe for more deep dives like this. Let's get into it. The $2 million experiment. Meet Brian Johnson, a tech entrepreneur who made hundreds of millions when he sold his payments company. With that kind of money, most people would have walked away to enjoy a life of luxury, buying supercars, yachts, or retiring to some tropical paradise. But not Brian. Instead, he poured more than $2 million into an audacious experiment, making his body biologically younger. And here's the twist. He isn't doing this alone. Brian assembled a team of more than 30 doctors, researchers, and health scientists, all working together in what he calls Project Blueprint. Their goal? To take one man's body and treat it like a highly sophisticated machine, constantly monitored, fine-tuned, and upgraded. He isn't just stepping on a scale or getting a yearly checkup. Brian undergoes over 5,000 different biological measurements every year. He tracks everything, from his DNA methylation clocks, tiny chemical markers on DNA that reveal how fast your cells are aging, to organ-specific ages like his heart, liver, kidneys, skin, and even his gums. The results have been nothing short of fascinating. At one point, his heart tested biologically at 37 years old, even though his actual age was 45. His skin matched that of a 28-year-old, and his fitness levels rivaled elite athletes in their 20s. This isn't about vanity. It's about proving that aging can be slowed, measured, and perhaps even reversed. Think of his body as a Formula One race car. You don't just drive it until it breaks down. A Formula One team constantly monitors every tire, every piston, every piece of machinery. They make micro-adjustments in real time, replace worn-out parts before they fail, and keep the car running at maximum performance. That's exactly what Brian is doing with his biology. But here's the thing, he isn't only doing it for himself. He believes the data he gathers, the protocols he experiments with, and the breakthroughs he achieves could one day serve as a blueprint for humanity itself. Imagine a future where people no longer wait for a heart attack to see a doctor, but instead prevent it decades in advance by constantly optimizing their biology. Brian's daily life looks nothing like yours or mine. He eats a strict diet of carefully measured foods designed to optimize cellular health. He goes to bed and wakes up at the exact same times every day. He exercises with precision, tracks his blood, monitors his sleep, and even measures the elasticity of his arteries. His routine is so strict that his young son once joked, "Dad, you're not trying to be my father, you're trying to be my younger brother." And maybe, just maybe, he's onto something. The question of no return. For decades, scientists believed that aging was a one-way street, a slow decline that, once it began, could never be reversed. They spoke of a point of no return, where the body had simply accumulated too much damage for any therapy or intervention to make a difference. This belief shaped how medicine was practiced. Treat symptoms, slow disease, but never dream of reversing the underlying process of aging. But today, a new wave of science is challenging this assumption. At the forefront is Dr. David Sinclair, a Harvard geneticist whose groundbreaking work has turned the aging world upside down. Sinclair's research shows that cells don't necessarily forget how to be young. They simply lose access to the instructions that keep them young. Imagine your body as a computer. Over time, files get corrupted, the operating system slows down, and glitches appear. Sinclair's experiments show that it might be possible to reboot these biological files, restoring cells to a more youthful state. In one of his most famous experiments, Sinclair and his team worked with elderly mice. These mice, which had already lost vision due to aging, underwent cellular reprogramming. Astonishingly, they regained their eyesight. Other studies revealed that older mice could recover muscle strength and brain function when subjected to similar treatments. Think about that. Animals that were considered biologically spent suddenly started performing like their younger counterparts. The implications are staggering. If this can be replicated in humans, it could mean that even in advanced stages of life, decline is not inevitable. In fact, early glimpses of this are already appearing in humans. Patients receiving stem cell therapies have reported improvements once thought impossible. One woman in her late 70s, who underwent experimental treatments to restore her vision, described her experience with tears in her eyes. "It feels like time just gave me a second chance." Picture an 80-year-old undergoing therapy, and suddenly their biomarkers, the hidden data of health, begin to resemble those of a 50-year-old. Instead of decline, their later years could be defined by renewed vitality. This doesn't just rewrite the science of aging, it rewrites what it means to grow old. If decline is not final, then perhaps aging itself is not destiny. Instead of frailty, the last chapters of life could be about energy, creativity, and strength. Early intervention, the longevity advantage. While reversing aging in older adults is exciting, Brian Johnson argues that the real key lies in early intervention. It's like fixing a crack in a dam. Catch it early, and you save the entire structure. Wait too long, and the whole thing collapses. The younger you start, the easier it becomes to slow or even prevent decline altogether. And science is already exploring controversial frontiers in this area, including embryo selection. Today, parents can screen embryos for genetic diseases like cystic fibrosis or Down syndrome during in vitro fertilization. In the near future, however, parents might be able to go a step further, choosing embryos that carry genetic markers linked not only to disease resistance, but also to longevity, intelligence, and metabolic health. Research suggests that genetics account for about 20 to 30% of differences in human lifespan, with lifestyle and environment making up the rest. That means that at the very beginning of life, we already hold a significant portion of the cards. If science can help parents stack the deck in favor of resilience and long health, it could change the future of entire generations. Imagine two babies born on the same day. One inherits a genetic tendency toward heart disease, diabetes, and fragile arteries. The other is born with stronger genes, arteries that resist hardening, cells that manage energy better, and a metabolism that protects against obesity. Fast forward 50 years. One individual is struggling with multiple medications, while the other is still running marathons and building companies. Same environment, same era, completely different outcomes. That's the power of early intervention. And Brian's work suggests that the sooner we apply health optimization, whether through genetic selection, childhood nutrition, or early biomarker tracking, the longer and healthier our lifespans may become. Preventing the problem may ultimately be more powerful than fixing it later. the enemies we inherited. But even the strongest genes face a battlefield, and that battlefield is our environment. Today, scientists are discovering that aging isn't just about internal biology. It's also about what we breathe, eat, and absorb from the world around us. And here's the alarming truth. The modern environment is quietly poisoning us. Research has revealed that the average human now consumes about a credit card's worth of microplastics every single week. Yes, you heard that right. Tiny plastic particles are making their way into our bloodstream, tissues, and even our organs. Scientists have found microplastics lodged in the lungs of living patients, in human blood samples, and most shockingly, in the placentas of unborn babies. And this isn't the first time we've faced such invisible enemies. In the 20th century, leaded gasoline poisoned entire generations. Children exposed to lead suffered reduced IQs, developmental problems, and long-term health issues. Before governments banned it, billions of people had already been affected. Similarly, asbestos, once hailed as a miracle material, caused decades of deadly lung disease before being restricted. Now microplastics and heavy metals like lead and mercury are the silent killers of our era, building up in our systems, damaging cells, and accelerating aging. Imagine inheriting your grandmother's jewelry. Instead of gold or silver, what you really inherit is the toxic load she carried. Chemicals, pollutants, plastics, all embedded into your biology. These invisible toxins don't die with one generation. They accumulate and pass on, forming a hidden legacy we are all forced to carry. This is why Brian's message goes beyond personal health. He insists that longevity is not just about optimizing ourselves. It's about cleaning the environment and breaking free from the toxic inheritance we are leaving behind. Because what we fail to address today will become tomorrow's burden for our children and grandchildren. So if we truly want to reverse aging, we can't just look inward at biology. We must also look outward at the world we live in. The tools of tomorrow. So how do we fight back against the ticking clock of aging? Brian envisions three powerful pillars that could redefine the future of longevity, turning what once seemed like science fiction into everyday reality. First, AI-powered health. Artificial intelligence is already transforming medicine, but its future role in longevity science is staggering. AI systems can process millions of health data points simultaneously, including genetic data, lifestyle inputs, lab results, and imaging scans. For instance, a 2022 Nature Medicine study found that AI algorithms could detect Alzheimer's disease in brain scans with an accuracy of up to 90%, years before symptoms appear. Now imagine an AI model that not only predicts your risk of Alzheimer's 15 years in advance, but also recommends a precise, personalized action plan, dietary adjustments, supplements, or experimental therapies long before decline sets in. This isn't just treatment, it's proactive prevention at scale. Second, regenerative medicine. Regenerative medicine holds the promise of literally replacing worn-out parts of the human body. Scientists are advancing therapies like lab-grown organs, stem cell treatments, and CRISPR gene editing that could reset biological age at the cellular level. Stem cells are already being used in experimental therapies to repair spinal cord injuries and regenerate damaged heart tissue after heart attacks. In 2021, researchers successfully grew organoids, tiny, simplified versions of human organs, allowing them to test drugs and study disease without risking human lives. Imagine a future where, if your liver begins to fail, doctors could simply grow a new liver from your own cells, eliminating organ shortages and rejection risks. By 2030, some experts predict that regenerative therapies could add 10 to 20 healthy years to human life expectancy. Third, continuous measurement. Currently, most people rely on an annual checkup, a snapshot of health taken once every 12 months. But aging doesn't wait a year. The future is about continuous, real-time measurement of the body. Think of wearable sensors and implants that track blood sugar, hormones, cardiovascular health, and even the earliest biomarkers of cancer 24/7. A 2023 report by Deloitte suggested that by 2030, 70% of adults in developed countries may be using continuous biometric monitoring devices. Just like a Tesla constantly updates its software and sends performance data back to the factory, our bodies could one day constantly update medical teams, allowing them to make corrections long before a problem becomes serious. This shift would mark the transition from sick care to true health maintenance. Together, these tools of tomorrow, AI, regenerative medicine, and continuous measurement, don't just extend life. They promise to redefine the very concept of aging. With every breakthrough, humanity moves one step closer to a world where growing old is not about decline, but about possibility. A world without dying? Here's where things get mind-bending. Brian believes future generations will look back at us and ask, why did they just accept dying? Think about it. Our ancestors accepted smallpox as inevitable until vaccines wiped it out. People once thought living past 40 was extraordinary. Today, average lifespans in many countries exceed 80. If breakthroughs in AI, regenerative medicine, and biology continue, death itself might come to be seen as an outdated disease, something that can be delayed, treated, or managed. Imagine celebrating your 150th birthday, surrounded by great-great-grandchildren. You're healthy, active, and your life isn't winding down, it's still unfolding. It may sound radical, but so did organ transplants in the 1960s. And here's the twist. Brian's $2 million experiment isn't just about him, it's about creating a roadmap for humanity. He's showing that aging doesn't have to be a slow fade into decline. With precise data, cutting-edge therapies, and cultural shifts, we could live far longer, healthier lives than ever imagined. But here's the question I want to leave you with. If death became optional, would you choose to live to 150 or even 200 if it meant staying young, healthy, and strong? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. And don't forget, hit that like button, share this video with someone who needs to hear this, and subscribe for more stories that push the boundaries of what's possible. Because the future of aging might just be the future of not dying.